Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Testing Tricks. Today I would like to share few Selenium interview questions and answers. I have already released part 1 video. If you have not watched yet, link has been mentioned in the description of this video. You can watch it. Okay. So we'll start with the questions and answers session. So this is the first question. How do you prioritize the test case in Selenium? So you can prioritize the test case using TestNG framework. As you know, you can set the priority in TestNG. If you'll set priority 0, priority 1, and priority 2, then obviously it will execute 0 first, then 1, then 2. And if both are having the same priority, in that case, it will execute based on alphabetical order. Okay, coming to the next question. What are the best practices you are using in your automation project? So you can mention you are doing proper code review by peers. So you're following proper check-in and check-out process. If you're using any check-in check-out process tool like a version controlling tool, if you're using that one also you can mention. Suppose in GitLab you are doing, or maybe SVN or Git, whichever tool you are using for version controlling, you can mention that. Okay. Then third point, you can tell that you are adding reusable methods as much as possible. If you are adding reusable method more, in that case our automation scripting is very easy, right? So that is also one of the good practice you can mention. And also execute regression suit weekly basis and smoke suit you are executing whenever any new build is coming. Okay, so that is also you can highlight. Okay, so coming to the next question, which is the latest WebDriver version in Selenium? And also tell me the feature difference between old driver and new WebDriver version. So suppose you can mention whichever version you are using. Suppose in my project I am using Selenium 4.0. Okay, in that particular version, the latest feature is if you want to launch two different website in two different tab. In that case, you can easily achieve this particular part using 4.0 driver version. But if you want to achieve it uh, with the previous versions, you cannot do that. Okay, so this is the feature difference uh, you can mention to the interviewer. Okay, so coming to the next question, how do you make sure that your automation script will give 100% pass result always? So before answering this question, you have to tell to the interviewer that whenever we'll trigger the automation test cases, I'll check first this six checklist I'll check. Okay, first is build is stable or not. Suppose a developer is releasing one new build, but on that particular build, the basic functionality itself is not working. So in that case, obviously, it is a unstable build, you can say. Obviously, on unstable build, if you want to execute your automation test cases, obviously it will be give zero result. Your all the automation test case will fail, right? So first you will check the build, the whether build is stable or not. Second is performance test result. So performance testing team will execute their performance test scripts, and after that they'll give the result, right? So we have to check whether the response time, request time, and response times are proper or not. If it is proper time we are getting, that means second checklist is also pass. Now, third checklist XPath change. Sometimes developer is changing the ID from the DOM structure, but we are not aware of that. Okay, so in that case, we have to communicate with them and we have to uh, discuss like whether they have changed any ID or any name from the DOM structure, right? If they have changed, then we have to update our XPath, and then after that we have to trigger the automation execution. Okay. So the next part is test data. Sometimes some of the fields are picking some data, right? Test data they are picking. Suppose username, password, some search related data we are picking, right? Or reporting related some data we are fetching some Excel sheet. So sometimes those test data has they have changed, or maybe uh, manual testers have changed their data, but we are not sure about that. But we are using the old test data and it is failing our test cases. So that one also we have to check with them. Okay. Now fifth point is environment up and running or not. So on that particular build, you have to launch our web application and you have to check and you have to do some kind of high level test you have to do, and you have to check whether it is correctly that environment is working or not. Okay, so environment, if it is not up and running, then obviously our test case will fail, right? So that is also one of the checklist you have to do. And last is smoke or sanity test result, because whenever developer is releasing any new build, manual testers are performing sanity testing or smoke testing, right? So we have to check with them whether they are happy with that or not. Okay, so high level testing they are always doing, even from our automation side also will do. So if the basic functionalities are working and some of the critical functionality is also if it is working, then in that case uh, we can pick that particular build and you can trigger the automation execution. Okay, and if all the checklists are passed, then only we'll trigger the execution. And on that case, obviously we'll get 100% pass result. Okay. Now coming to the next question, how many regression defect you have found through automation in last release? So this is one of the managerial questions. Okay, so you know, depending on the defect count, our ROI uh, will matter, right? So obviously, if you'll not find any defects through automation, then it is a drawback for us. So everyone is expecting through automation we should find some defects, which will determine the ROI of our project. So that's why whatever regression defects you have found in last release, you can mention here. Okay. So that is the one question they're asking in the interview. Coming to the next question, what are the coding guidelines you are following in your project? So as you know, whenever you are working in automation project, so you are mentioning local variables, global variables, constant, function, right? So as a good practice, as a coding guidelines, what you have to do for local variables, if you are mentioning in your project, then obviously local variable names should follow camel case. That means lettering should start with the small letter. Okay. Now, if you are using global variables in your project, that global variable name should start with capital letters only. Okay. Now, constant. For constant, it should be always capital letters. And if you're using any function, obviously function name should follow camel case starting with the small letter. So those are the guidelines you have to follow in your project. Okay. Now coming to the next question. When you are executing smoke and regression automation suite. So in our project, smoke testing or smoke suite we are executing whenever developer is releasing a new build. Okay. And regression we are doing at end of every week, also at the release time. So it's a good practice if you'll not rely on the release time. Okay, it's better to uh, execute your regression suite once in a week so that you can understand whether the existing functionality is still working fine or not. And smoke testing, as it is related to critical functionality check, so we have to do whenever they are releasing any new build, we have to check the critical functionality. So for that, you have to execute the smoke suite. Okay. Now coming to the next question, how do you reduce automation execution time? So first of all, you should remove the unused code in your project. Suppose you are in your framework, you are using some of the code which is already commented. That means it's not using, right? You are not using those code. So you can remove those code. Second is remove thread.sleep concept. Because if you use thread.sleep 2 seconds, so what will happen? WebDriver will wait up to 2 seconds. If WebDriver will able to find the element within 1 second, it will not click because you have given hard-coded time. So it will wait up to 2 seconds, then it will click. So obviously 1 second it will be wastage, right, for you. So there is no use of 1 second. So in that case, you should remove this thread.sleep concept. Thread.sleep, please remove from your framework because it's taking hard-coded value and unnecessary your timing will be more. Okay. Now third point you can mention remove unnecessary for loops. Okay, unnecessary for loops you can remove from your code. Fourth point is try to use explicit wait everywhere because you know explicit wait is coming with the conditions. Presence of element visible or not. So those conditions you will get automatically under explicit condition. So whenever WebDriver will find the element, it will immediately it will click. It will not wait for that particular time how you are mentioning under thread.sleep, right? So it's better to use explicit wait. Okay. Perform parallel execution in different browser. Suppose you have 200 test cases. So you want to execute 100 test cases in Chrome and the remaining 100 test cases if you will execute in Firefox, then obviously your execution will be faster. So try to do that. Okay. And last point is block inconsistent pop-up and images. So sometimes whenever you are performing any manual flow, okay, then that time you'll not get those kind of pop-ups and images in your application. Okay, but whenever you are triggering automation execution, then that time we are facing those pop-ups which are irrelevant. It's not required in for your application. And obviously because of that our most of the test cases will fail because at that time of manual execution we did not face, and because of that we have not handled those kind of problems, and we have not handled or not written any kind of a script for that. But at the time of executing, then we are getting those images and pop-ups, right? So it's better before you trigger the automation execution, you can block first those inconsistent pop-up and images. First block it, then you can trigger your automation execution. Okay. So if you'll follow those things, then obviously you can reduce your automation execution time. Coming to the next question, how to drag and drop any element in Selenium. So first you have to use actions class. Okay. Then after that you have to use that from element and to element. So from element is nothing but a which element you want to drag. So for that particular web element XPath you have to identify. Then where you want to drag that two element, that particular section where you want to drag that particular section also you have to identify through XPath. And then after that you have to use this click on hold method where it will hold that particular from element and then it will drag or move to element. Okay. So then to in that in front of two element when where you want to drag there it will drag, and then after that you have to perform release and build, and finally you have to do perform method. So this is the code you have to mention in front of interviewer. Okay. So next question would be what is inheritance and how did you implement inheritance in your automation framework? So please go through your framework, whichever framework you are using, and as you know it's a normal basic concept of inheritance. So that particular part, just go through your framework and please be prepared for that. Okay, this question is also asking in many interview. Next question is how to launch two different website in two different tab in Selenium. That's what I have discussed few minutes back, that this particular feature is available from Selenium 4.0 version. Okay, and I have already made a video on this particular topic. Uh, so please visit my description section. Okay, link has been mentioned in the description. You can watch. Next question would be what are the exceptions you are getting in Selenium? So obviously, whenever you are executing any automation test cases, so many exceptions we are getting. There are checked exception, unchecked exception also we are getting. Okay, but some of the popular exception, it would be null pointer exception. Sometimes we are getting no such element exception, element not visible exception, stale element exception. Okay, timeout exception, web driver exception. So those are the popular exceptions we are getting actually. Okay. Yeah, so that is all from my side today. I hope it is clear for everyone. Thank you.